Hi, today I'm going to be talking about substance abuse among teenagers and adolescents. My main point of this speech is to really make you understand how bad substance abuse can be among children and teens, and what ways we can prevent this from happening. I'm sure at one point when we were young, we made a mistake and had to suffer the consequences. When we're young, we don't understand the causes and effects that our decisions have. We don't understand the longevity that consequences can have. So that's why a lot of kids do get addicted to drugs and alcohol, because they don't understand the addiction. Some kids don't even know you can get addicted to substances. And so that's why we need to talk about it. We need to understand what exactly substance abuse is and what it can do and ways to prevent it. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is what exactly is substance abuse and what does it do? Substance abuse is addiction. And before researching this speech, I didn't really know how addiction worked. And so that's what I'm going to explain today. According to HazeltonBettyFord.org, there's a chemical in our brain called dopamine. This chemical is a happy chemical. It's released when we are socially active, when we're sleeping, when we're eating, when we're doing things we love. It's released and we feel happy, excited, joyful. But it's also released when doing drugs. And so to better understand this chemical, I have a demonstration. So we're going to pretend this water is dopamine. And when I pour it, it's being released into our brain and body. So when you sleep, it's going to be released. When you eat, when you hang out with friends, it's released into your brain and body and you feel happy. But when you also take drugs or do alcohol, dopamine is also being released. But see how I didn't break in between. Dopamine is being released when you do drugs for however long you're high. So let's say you're high for an hour. Dopamine is constantly being released. And that's why a lot of kids and teens refer back to it, because they realize, oh, I don't have to eat, sleep, or communicate with people. I can just take this drug and be completely fine, have this amazing feeling all the time instead of only sometimes when I'm happy. And that causes kids to self-isolate. According to psychiatric.online.org, when you are constantly doing drugs as kids, they don't understand how to naturally reward yourself. And when I say this, I mean, let's say you're studying for a really big test and you're really nervous because the class is super hard, but you end up getting an A, and that reward feeling that you get after is you naturally rewarding yourself. And when kids and adolescents and teens start doing drugs at such a young age, they can't grasp that concept of rewarding themselves naturally and not using a substance to do that for them. And when they're not high, it's going to cause anxiety and stress, and it's going to be worse for when they're sober, and that's when they constantly start getting high, and that's the root of addiction. Next is mental illnesses. Substance abuse can cause a plethora of many disorders and mental illnesses. According to dualdiagnosis.org, many people turn to alcohol or drugs to mask certain mental illnesses they might have. An example would be if you have anxiety and you start abusing alcohol. Alcohol relieves the feeling of anxiety. So you constantly start drinking to remove that feeling. But when you don't drink, it's 10 times worse because you have that feeling again and you don't know how to deal with it the correct way. Another thing that can happen, according to, again, dualdiagnosis.org, there was an article within this source, and it was called Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. They name 8 different mental illnesses that you can contract when using substances over a long period of time. This isn't going to happen overnight. If you just use one for one day, it's not going to happen overnight. But this is the longevity of using substances. I'm only going to be talking about 4 because 8 is a lot. The 4 I'm talking about, the first one is delirium. Delirium causes you to be in between mental states. You're constantly changing mental states. So you're happy, one minute sad, annoyed, depressed. And this just causes people to be out of control and be very difficult to communicate with. The second is hallucinogen persisting disorder. And as it sounds in the name, you hallucinate. You see lights, you see color, you see objects floating. Some people have said they see lines waving in midair. The third one is persisting dementia. And I'm sure everyone probably knows what dementia is, but it's so much more than not remembering something. Dementia is going to affect your learning, your attention span, the way you understand things that you used to do all the time, like driving, but you forget. Sometimes it gets so severe that sometimes you can forget how to eat or even breathe. And the fourth is sleeping disorders. Substance abuse can cause many different sleeping disorders. The main two are insomnia and not being able to get a full night's rest. So let's say you sleep for 30 minutes, wake up, sleep for 30 minutes, wake up. You can never get that full night's rest of sleep. And also these mental illnesses can be, for everyone. They can be for someone that's 56 or 17. But when you're younger and you have these disorders, it can make it hard for you to develop correctly. We're still growing, and it can make it hard for that individual to go day to day and help them grow. Lastly, we're going to talk about solutions that we can do to help prevent. According to mayoclinic.org, they say to talk. So a friend, let's say we know a friend that's suffering from this, or when we're older and we have a child that's suffering from this, they say the first thing to do is sit down and talk to them about drugs and substance abuse and alcohol abuse. Second, ask their opinion on it. Don't dismiss what they have to say. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to what this means to them. Third is say your opinion. Tell them what you think of it and why you don't like it. Don't lecture them, just have a conversation. Third is talk about peer pressure and what you can do to step aside and say no to peer pressure. An example of this is my mom told me if I was ever in trouble to call her, to blame it on her, to say that my mom wants me home, not me. Fourth is if you've done any substances or if you've drank alcohol, talk to them about it. Talk to them about your experience. Talk to them about why you don't like it, because that will help them better understand what you're trying to say to them. Lastly, we're going to talk about a prevention organization, and there's many of them, but the one I'm going to be talking about is DARE, and it stands for Drug Abuse Resistant Education. This program helps to educate adolescents and teens about drug abuse and what it can do to you. I remember when they came to my school, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember when they came and talked about what drugs and substances can do to you. And obviously I don't remember what they said. I mean, it's all along the lines, but it was along the lines of don't do drugs. But the only thing that I vividly remember is them showing pictures, before and after pictures of certain drugs. So like cocaine, before and after, meth, before and after. And that's what stuck with me, is because I didn't want to be on a DARE presentation. That I didn't want to be, oh, look what happened to this girl. And that stuck with me. And it stuck with many of my friends. I've asked them, we've talked about it. We remember vividly those pictures. So now that I've explained why substance abuse is bad and the solutions we can have and help prevent this,